Order. This is the last evidence session in this inquiry. I think the problem comes about where we have paid out for cases where an incident has happened that's not in detention, and we have essentially paid out, sometimes without even speaking to the soldiers who are involved in that incident. And the impression that then gives is that we've moved from innocent until proven guilty to guilty until proven innocent, because we're just paying out. And does that not therefore encourage this sort of machine that has come forward of claims?
Well, I don't think it's possible to say that if we'd paid out fewer civil claims, there might have been more or fewer criminal allegations.
No, but I'm talking about specific instances other than detentions where we have paid out money to Iraqis in compensation without speaking to soldiers involved in that process.
On legal advice, the view was taken that to take certain cases to court would be extraordinarily expensive, would probably result in a worse outcome for the Ministry of Defence, and would incur all sorts of problems for soldiers and others.
Absolutely. Forgive me, because time is short, but how does that make our soldiers feel if we are paying out money that they, for instance, they have been involved in without even speaking to them? You must understand what I'm getting at. Looking at the evidence, it appears that Abu Jamal was at one stage working for public interest lawyers, Lee Day, and yourselves. Is that your understanding?
When we found that out, we put a stop to it.
But the point is that it went on for 6 years. Surely there's some culpability for paying this guy for 6 years, acknowledging that once you find out about it, you stop this. Sorry? Do you want to speak?
Yeah, the decisions were made by the IHAT against an extraordinary background.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that since you came into post, this process has begun to close down. Absolutely right. But I am very careful with the dates. So on the 27th of January, MinAF states that they're the enemy of justice and humanity, public interest lawyers. That same day, your department pays them £6,817.50. That same day.
Yes,
and I understand you make these agreements before, but do you not see the impression that that gives to people if you're saying one thing here and then going down the road and paying them money?
Well, these were contractual payments that were authorised from the contract from the previous year. But we weren't just making speeches about public interest lawyers, we were doing something about it.
Yeah, no, I accept that.
We compiled the dossier, took it to the Solicitors Regulation Authority, and now, far too slowly, now you have the result. We no longer have public interest lawyers.
Okay, I accept that.
That's a success.
I accept that. And on the 18th of April, the Minister said that no more public money is to be used to pay for agents. 1st of July, £27,000.
Well,
so that's 2 months later. I understand that we have contracts we need to fulfil, but would it not be more honest to say, okay, but we have to end these contracts first and we will give them a whole load more of public money and then we'll end it, rather than saying we will give no more money to public interest lawyers? Yeah, you're right, it was a court brokered deal at that point. When it first started, it wasn't a court brokered deal. It was a decision made by Director IHAT that we could not do this process without them. So we essentially contributed to setting up this machine to bring in all these claims. Now, and I accept that hindsight is 20/20 vision, a lot of these advice and decisions you're talking about have been shown to be completely wrong.
Well, just a minute. It was the court that told us that Pill had to be represented at each interview. That was laid down by the court, not by us.
In 2013, I'm talking about 2011, and it was first laid down by IHAT. That was not a court decision in 2011. That was a decision by Commander IHAT that you could not complete this process without you. And all I'm putting to you is that these decisions have helped bring this about, this machine that has just got completely out of control. It says in here all the complaints came in 2016. I've got one here in 2015. I've got a phone call here in 2014 where Commander IHAT spoke to an individual who'd made a complaint in this process. You haven't seen any of that evidence?
Oh, we've seen the evidence. I've said we're aware of 7 complaints.
All in 2016, and what I'm saying to you is that they've been happening before that, but you're not aware of those.
I'm aware of 7 complaints in total about IHAT's processes.
Calvert Smith's review, it was in that we are using powers to place our men and women under surveillance for this investigation. And the question is, what do you think about that?
Is that acceptable behaviour?
I don't know the answer to that.
Can I
We
just...
don't normally confirm or deny where there is surveillance involved in cases like that.
There is no doubt the soldiers have had to pay their own legal fees. You must have seen the coverage in the newspapers. Indeed, Sir Michael, you made that announcement after it was shown that we were going to have to start docking people's pay to get these legal fees back. And you haven't seen any evidence of soldiers having to pay their own legal fees, no?
Not from the IHAT investigation, no.
Okay. Right, can you explain to me why, and we're going to start wrapping up now, why do we need to arrest people in this process? Why do we need to arrest people?
It's an operational decision, Mr. Mercer, but my understanding is that in certain very, very exceptional circumstances, arrest is something that police forces would...
No, but I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm talking specifically about IHAT, clearly. Why do we need to arrest people? Because if you're going to deprive someone of their liberty, that's quite a serious thing. And you would do that because they're going to burn evidence or they're going to abscond the country. None of these guys are going to do that. So it's why are we arresting people?
I think there are a range of reasons, one of which, for example, might be a suspicion that people might collude